Welcome back, welcome back, welcome black to In Black America Radio with your host, Rasta. It is September 20th, 2017. Today's title of the show is Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, Chapter 2, because that is the chapter in the title of the book that I will be reading from. Guest call-in number 646-716-4654. And this is In Black America Radio, where you get a different perspective on events that goes on in Black America and all over this black world. Again, guest call-in number 646-716-4654. But before I go further, let me go ahead and bring in my co-host, Smoke. Smoke, are you there?
Yo, what's good?
Shit, man, chilling, yo. Friday.
Yeah, big Friday. You know how that go. Tired as hell.
Huh?
So I'm tired as hell. Let's get it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm cool. I thought I would have had to show a little bit more detail today, because I had a lot of time to work on it, but I got caught up reading for a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? Next thing I know, I blink my eye, it's like 8:50. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even start. I didn't even put the show together. So, you know, we in here, made it. So that's how that is. Shit. What's been going on with you?
It seemed like a long-ass week, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is a regular week. You know what I'm saying? Working. Just doing the regular shit, man, trying to build up shit. I don't know. It just seemed like it was a long week this week.
Yeah, man. Shit. Ain't shit on this side. Just chilling, man. Working on my work, you know what I mean? And that's about it, really. You know what I'm saying? To speak on that note, I just been looking at the news a lot, man, seeing a lot of the different controversies going on. You know what I'm saying? One of the controversies I think that everybody pretty much know about is the I was gonna say handling, but I think I'd rather say mishandling of the black Green Beret brother, the Davis. I'm trying to find the story so I can get the brother's last name. But yeah, that's the whole. That I want to talk about that story. We're talking about the whole mishandling.
What was it? His mom's or his wife? Was David T. Johnson. Right. David T. Johnson, the widow.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You said who?
His name is David T. Johnson.
Lil David.
Lil David, yeah, Lil David.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I didn't know he was talking about that first. That's how I was like, huh? All right.
Lil David.
So, yeah, but it's the mishandling, you know what I'm saying? And what's funny to me is, and this is just me using, what is it called, lack of a better word. What's funny to me is, it ain't new, basically. It's not new. The irony of the disrespect for that brother, wow, white America pretends that they give a fuck about an anthem. You dig what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
They talk all this respect to vets and all kind of shit like that. But we already know, they showed you this in history. They don't respect black people in uniform. Let me show you how ill it is, Smoke. How ill the comparison is, what I'm trying to say, right? I'm going to read this one part from the book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, right? There's one little part, just to understand what I'm trying to say, right? Where's the page at? Right, so it goes like this. Their frustration is further fed by the fact that even when blacks and whites die together in the cause of justice, the death of the white person gets more attention and concern than the death of the black person. They remember how President Johnson, this is Lyndon Johnson, sent flowers to the gallant Miss Reeb, and in his eloquent "We Shall Overcome" speech, paused to mention that one person, James Reeb, had already died in the struggle. Somehow, the president forgot to mention Jimmy, who died first. You're going to understand who these characters are once I read the chapter, but I have to read this part. The parents and sister of Jimmy received no flowers from the president. The students felt this keenly. Not that they felt that the death of James Reeb was less than tragic, but because they felt that the failure to mention Jimmy Jackson only reinforced the impression that to white America, the life of a Negro is insignificant and meaningless. 1967. 1967. You know what I'm saying? 1967. So that's where a lot of my issue is. Like, I be torn with these racial issues in America because literally it's not new. And you can trace this back. You see what I'm saying? So I just feel like we need to start to think on some preemptiveness and stop thinking on reaction all the time. You know what I'm saying? We it's not a shock, is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I feel like every time we get shocked by it, in my head, the way I see it is we don't know the history of this country when it comes to black and white. Before I continue to have a caller, let me let the caller come in. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? Oh, you dropped. All right, go ahead, Smoke.
I mean, it was total disrespect. I mean, the point that you mentioned earlier with, how the irony of it tying into, what's going on right now with the protests in the NFL regarding the flag. It's like they make the kneeling a disrespect and, have that narrative, and then to turn around and disrespect an actual sergeant, who was killed in an ambush, to acknowledge him as your guy. They were saying that, that's how he was referring to him, to his widow. So I mean, it's just like, it's the blatant disrespect. I mean, but it's the vibe of the country. You know what I mean? We already know what we paint Trump as a racist. You know what I'm saying? We paint him as that, and then he shows it. So I just think like the reaction is like it's on our end. It's like we know what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, I get it. I get the anger because I'll be pissed off too. You know what I'm saying? Especially if that's your relative. Putting yourself in his wife's shoes. You know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, you don't get no type of respect.
Don't forget, he cut a check. He cut a check for the white family, for one of the white families. He cut a check, personal check, $25K. The black man, they ain't find his body in 48 hours.
It's really what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like we gotta live in reality. If we want to call a white man the devil, Trump is a racist, we want to brand it to them, then we gotta expect shit like this to fall out of their mouth. And to be affected by it, like
No, but here's the shit. It's not even affect. It's like being from Brooklyn and seeing somebody duck because you hear a gunshot. If I was to duck every time I hear a gunshot, I'd be ducking every day, every second. You know what I'm saying? I'm ducking.
right.
Is the point I'm making. So it's like these actions aren't back in the day action. These actions is what the fuck it is. There's no changing. There's no talking. Look at how stupid we are. I hear people praising Bush for Bush coming out talking. When Bush was Trump before Trump to black Americans. Before Trump, Bush was Trump to black Americans. But now that he's getting out and saying something that appeals to your ear, now I guess he's an ally. This is how silly we are. Because all we do is accept what comes along in a push. They've always disrespected black men in uniform. They don't care about you in uniform. They don't care about you in uniform. So I wasn't shocked when I heard anything that happened. I wasn't shocked. I was more shocked when I heard the reaction of black people in a state of disbelief. And I'm like, check your history. Check your history. Check after Reconstruction. Check your history. Check Vietnam. Check your history. It ain't never stopped. So why are we always constantly keep thinking that these shits is new? You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like if you constantly think it's new, then what happened is you think, well, there's a way to stop this. I can read from if I read this, if I read this, right, and I said to you, they felt that the failure to mention Jimmy Jackson only reinforced the impression that to white America, the life of a Negro is insignificant and meaningless. Won't that sound like Black Lives Matter? Think about that. Let me read a little. Let me read the part before they said this. This is 1967. Martin Luther King talking. Their frustration is further fed by the fact that even when black and whites die together, the death of the white person get more attention and concern than the death of the black person. That's not Black Lives Matter? That's not Black Lives Matter? But then we talk about shit like it's new. And we talk about shit like these are new problems. I have a solution. So why am I reading your solution in a book from 1960-something? Or why am I reading your solution from the 1900s or the late 1800s? Why am I reading your solutions there? These aren't new solutions. These aren't new problems. That's why I keep saying night in and night out, every Friday, every Saturday, we got to work on building an economy. We have to think preemptively. We have to counter the oppression that we're dealing with. We're not supposed to fucking march and bitch, moan, and complain about it. You can't even fight this. The only thing you can do is counter it. That's it. The only thing to do is counter it. We don't counter shit. We sit there, we get punched in the fucking face, and we keep screaming, stop it, we're humans. What everybody happy about? A black man hugs a Nazi.
Oh, sorry.
What? This what we... Yo,
Why you hate
a black
me?
man hugging Nazi. This is what's powerful.
Give me a hug, brother.
Fuck out of here, man. That's what's powerful. No, we moving backwards. We're not even moving backwards. We in the same.
I think we feel like. I think we keep feeling like it's gonna be a tipping point. Like, hey, okay, when Trayvon happened, they're gonna have to understand it. They're gonna, it's like every time something happens, it's like, it seems like our reaction is like, oh, they still don't understand. They, like it's gonna be some moment where these type of racial episodes be happening, and it's like you said, it's not going. There's no all you could do is counter it. I mean, I can't really put it in better words than what you just said. All you can do is counter that shit. But it seems like we feel like there's gonna be that aha moment with white people or white supremacy or the system or whatever, and they're gonna wake up and start to love black people and treat black people correctly. When that's not the case. It's up to us to put ourselves in positions where we can better serve our communities and our children. You know what I mean? It's like nobody gonna do it but us.
That's what we're supposed to be doing. But we don't think about that. We want to think about everybody else's children. That's what we want to think about. Everybody else's children, every other group, every other race, every other people. We don't want to think about us. We don't want to worry about us. We don't. Nothing that deals with us we want to do. Because even with the black dude hugging a Nazi dude, you ain't gonna see no black man hug another black man when we go into war with each other.
Nah,
you see what I'm saying?
Stomping them out.
We gonna see us. Yeah, we stomping each other out. We busting enough gunshot at each other. You ain't gonna see us hug each other.
Because in that situation with the brother who hugged the Nazi protester, they were saying that the crowd was trying to really rough him up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And then you got that guy who came in the middle and started, this so-called conversation with the guy who's asking him, why he hates him or whatever. And, they try to make a big story out of that, but he's hugging the guy. People taking pictures with the guy, you know what I'm saying? I seen another poster like, he got his arm around, black guy got his arm around the Nazi guy, and, the Nazi dude, he got like his weird, kind of like a fake smile type shit on his face, and the post was like, if you make one change, we succeeded or some shit. And it's like, we taking victories of small shit where it's like, come on, man. We really think we want to wake others up. Like, hey, guys, really, love us. Pay attention to our plight. Help our community. And it's like, it's a game out here. You know what I'm saying? We sitting on the bench. Everybody else is playing the game, building their shit up, building their communities, having their banks, and doing all of this while we on the sideline asking for people to give us shit. And the thing about it is we got the talent. We have the talent to make the shit happen. It's just we don't want to get off of the bench and get into the game. And that's you can see that in the rhetoric. So it's like we always, we asking for something or we upset somebody said this about us and it's understandable, but it's like
because we're in that position, we get manipulated because of that, right?
Right.
We get manipulated because of that. And I'm going to show you how much we get manipulated. I've been saying on this show plenty of times that the kneeling is compromising, right? Did I ever say that on the show? Kneeling is compromising and break down the whole thing that's happening. So I want black people to mention on that.
But you could
I want Black America to hear it. I want to let y'all hear this. This is on YouTube, right? For the people that want to listen. This is on YouTube. This is at the Values Voter Summit, right? The title of this YouTube is called Your Enemies Are the Following. Laura Ingram says our enemies list for conservative voters. They got an enemies list. This is what these white right-wing Charlemagne to call them cracker-ass crackers. This is them talking. These are white people I like to listen to. Because these are white people that ain't talking fruit and lie. These are white people that's talking, and you can hear it in plain English and understand exactly what they're talking about and exactly what they're trying to do. I don't like listening to liberal whites who like to smile in your face, tell you everything good, hope, change, just believe humanity, love is love, and all this other dumb shit. No, I don't listen to those whites because they're confusing to me. I need to listen to the ones that's real. Now, I'm going to show you how real this one is right here. Again, it's your enemies. Hold on. Well, let me say the reason for this. This is the question. Why are they kneeling? Talking about the NFL players. I want you to listen to what this white woman said.
Your enemies are the following. They've declared war on you. Antifa, you know, the fascist group. They call it anti-fascist, but it is most fascist. La Raza, the NFL anthem squatters. They don't much like you. Since when did kneeling become, I don't even understand the protest. Why is kneeling even a bad thing? If they're kneeling at the anthem, you could say that maybe they actually just like the anthem a lot. Like when you kneel, it's a sign of respect. I don't even understand their protest. Most of the press corps, they're...
You heard that, Smoke?
Yeah.
Is that clear now? That was clear?
Yeah.
I want to make sure people heard that. Because I've been scratching my head on that for the longest. I was like, Kaepernick sat during the anthem. He sat during the anthem. Of Army vet, because that's when they said he was disrespecting the flag and the anthem and all that other bullshit.
Yeah.
A vet told him, because that's when he would explain, no, I'm sitting down because the flag don't represent what y'all saying it represents. Black people out here getting murdered out here by police and shit like that. No justice being done. They're turning blind eyes to this shit. Then a vet told him, well, you can still protest, but kneel to show respect to the flag and to the vets who died and fought for the flag, but you can still protest. Now the media narratives have changed and now says everyone's kneeling. Kneeling is the protest now. And kneeling is not a protest. Kneeling is a compromise. So when I'm listening to this value voters shit, and I hear her say that, I was like, get the fuck out. See? Get the fuck out of here. Fools again.
See, it doesn't make sense because at the end of the day, like regardless of what the protest is, you know what I'm saying, whether it's kneeling, not coming out on the field, whatever. If there's no end game, it's a waste of time. All of the backlash and repercussions that are going to come because of it, we're not going to get no reward for it. So that's really the issue. So it's like some people was doing the for Kaepernick. Some people was doing the shit because Trump called him a son of a bitch. Some people was doing it like Ray Lewis on two knees. But like, what is we really doing this shit for? Like what is the goal of this? Are they trying to change the rules of the NFL regarding kneeling at the anthem? Is that it? Or are you trying to get guaranteed contracts out the mix? Like, what is there's no clear end game. So what happens is,
let me tell you, all that showed was all y'all NFL niggas ain't nothing but boys.
But what it also shows, and what I was going to say, is that it just has chaos. What is the book you're reading on? Chaos and community. So it shows that we really not a community because even in something that we all seeming to like want to agree upon, we all got different. It's like chaos. You ask 10 different people what they feel about the protest, you're gonna get 10 different answers. And at the end of the day, nobody knows what it's really for. So it's just a bunch of chaos when, you know, it looks like we're on a unified front, but it's not really the case.
At all, you know what I'm saying? And the funny thing that you said that, because, again, man, I can't wait till I read the chapter. But there's a part on there where they speak on Black Power, and that's basically what Martin Luther King was saying. He was like, if you ask 10 different people what Black Power means, you're going to get a whole different action, because some mean this, and mean that, or whatever. Yeah, it's funny that you said that, you know what I'm saying? That you said that.
Yeah, it's crazy, you know what I'm saying? And that happens in a lot of you know, issues that we seem to take up, you know what I mean, that we seem to hold important. When you start breaking it down, it's like, you know, these people want to do this section want to do, you know, do that. We all have different directions that we want to take. The protest or whatever, you know, the cause is, and you know, we end up not getting anything out of it. And you know, and this football shit is like a good example of that.
So I'm gonna play the other part of the clip, same clip, but this is now she's gonna explain why Trump won. Watch this. Oh, hold on. All right, there we go.
I explain how Donald Trump, he didn't win because of Comey, or even because Hillary was a bad candidate. He didn't win because he was a celebrity, or even that he was self-funded. Donald Trump won because he was unafraid to hold up a mirror to the failures of the bipartisan establishment that refused to do what the people for really a couple of decades had been demanding that they do. That's why he won. He won because of the issue. Who voted for open borders? Who voted to deindustrialize the Midwest? Who voted to send millions of our jobs to Asia and other countries? Who voted for perpetually low wages for our middle class and low entry-level position workers? Who voted to completely upend the understanding of gender in the United States? Who voted for any of this? The answer is none of us voted for this. We voted for candidates along the way who promised to do our will and respect the Constitution. That is what we did because we tended to give people the benefit of the doubt. And like, you know, Lucy in the football, we kind of became Charlie Brown, election cycle after election cycle, until we couldn't take it anymore. Our back was about to break. We saw the country was about to be lost forever. Donald Trump understood that uniquely, and he followed in the line of others who came before, however, from going all the way back to Richard Nixon and believing that we have to listen to the silent majority, to law and order, to all the way up to Ronald Reagan surprising a GOP establishment in 1976 by almost winning the nomination, and then coming along like a hurricane himself in 1980 and blowing past the Bushes and everyone else who ridiculed him, demeaned him, and said he was just an actor. He didn't know anything. He shook up the country. He brought us back from the brink. He helped defeat the Soviet Union. And he set a blueprint, a conservative, oftentimes populist blueprint for how to appeal to a wider range of Americans. I went back, and in the book, I described what happened.
So I wanted to play that part because I wanted for black people to hear really what's going on in America. And really why Trump is going to get 2 terms. And I wanted you to hear that from the horse's mouth. I don't want you to keep listening to the media who lies to you. I don't want you to keep listening to your white allies who are lying to you. The thing that's going on in America is happening for a reason. It ain't your reason, but it's happening for a reason. Just like your mother tell you, always follow the person with the key. Whoever the driver, you make sure you got an eye on that driver, or you're going to get left. If white people making moves like that, you need to listen to these white people when they're talking. Listen to those value voter conference and say to yourself, how many people attended that? How loud are these applauses? What are they saying? And does it sound practical? That's what you listen for. That's what I listen for. Listen to the support. Read the comments. How many of the comments is in support and not in support? Pay attention to what's being said, because they're banking on you not to listen to them speak at the Heritage Foundation. Because they don't. Let me tell you something about white people. White people, you can call them whatever the fuck you want to call them. White people do what the fuck they want to do, and they do it right in your face. It's just your choice whether or not you're going to pick up on it or not. But white people will go on television and tell you, yeah, we plan to wipe out at least 1.5 million blacks by the year 2020. They'll say it on TV, but your ass is on ESPN. So you ain't going to get that information. Not until somebody find the clip and post it on YouTube, and then you like, yo, brother, yo, this is deep, yo. This brother put some information up. Nigga, I came on yesterday. You could have seen the same shit. We watched the wrong thing. We don't listen to this. That's what the Heritage Foundation, the Value Voter, all them shit is think tanks. Those are think tanks. And them niggas, they get their bread up, and they write and pull together their ideas and make it into legislation. You know that thing Martin Luther King did? And everybody want to talk about is stupid and shit like that and talk about it like it ain't shit? Yeah. That's what those Heritage Foundations and those conferences they be having and these different things they be having when they talking. They do all of that to get a consensus of their community. And then they're drawing up ideas of what their community needs. Then they get that into a bill or some type of law, something they have it written up. Then they pass that on to their politicians and say, this is what we want on the table. This, you know what it is, Smoke? This is our agenda.
Yeah,
that's what they say. This is our agenda. This is the difference between those fucking Congressional Black Caucuses meetings and those NAACP meetings and all them other stupid-ass meetings everybody had that Roland Martin be showing and shit like that. This is the difference between the two. Your enemies are the following. Laura Ingraham lays out an enemy list for conservative voters. She sat here and said, how did Donald Trump, I'm going to tell you how Donald Trump won. We didn't vote for this. We ain't vote for that. We ain't asked for this. We ain't asked for that. Who voted for that? Then go to the black one. And on the black one, this is all you're going to hear, Smoke. How can we? What should we do? Is there a way to? That show? That's us. No fucking nothing, yo. All we're doing is sitting around acting crazy.
No agenda,
no, guys,
no end game.
No game. That's why I be saying, listen to the Latinos groups when they talk. and listen to their rhetoric. Go to the Chinese groups, listen to their rhetoric. Go to the gay groups, listen to their rhetoric. Go to all groups and listen to their rhetoric. Then go to the black group and listen to their rhetoric. Then you'll understand why we're in the position that we're in today. Straight up. Then you'll understand that.
Leadership.
They're not coming over here talking, asking questions. You don't hear none of these white people sitting over here saying, she ain't say, let me see, can I find the clip? I mean the part again, but she didn't say, we felt like we was losing our country, so now we're going to ask the question, how do we get our country back? She didn't say that. I'm going to play a 1 minute part of the clip one more time.
Donald Trump, he didn't win because of Comey or even because Hillary was a bad candidate. He didn't win because he was a celebrity or even that he was self-funded. Donald Trump won because he was unafraid to hold up a mirror to the failures of the bipartisan establishment that refused to do what the people for really a couple of decades had been demanding that they do. That's why he won. He won because of the issues.
The issues, right? The Congressional Black Caucus. Remember we did that show, Smoke? And I said the person that started it said, we have no permanent friends, we have no permanent enemies, we just have permanent interests, right? What is the issues that y'all fighting for? Black leadership? No, none. All y'all have is stupid-ass agendas. Y'all don't have no fire. Y'all don't have no fire. They have no fresh ideas. This is what your average black person is dealing with. People that's coming with the same rhetoric. When you listen, because now that I'm saying it, you have to listen. Listen to black people when they talk to black people. Farrakhan, to everybody. Listen to how they talk to black people. But listen to how they talk to black people last. And listen to every other group when they talk to they people. And when you listen to your people last, then you make that comparison and you ask yourself, why the fuck are we asking questions while they're demanding answers? Go ahead, Smoke.
I mean, it's just between the Black Caucus and, other leaders out there, it just lets you know because, I mean, you take into account the vibe of the country, especially right now. You know what I'm saying? You got this crazy-ass president, you know what I mean, saying all the crazy shit, just the whole vibe, the vibe we have. And then you say, all right, we got these issues of, we got poverty, we got police getting, killing us and shit like that. We got a black congressional caucus. What's the narrative coming out of there? So when we sit and we did the show on the black congressional caucus and how their mission statements all pointed to helping everyone, us and everyone, all the groups, one big thing. Mm-hmm. So you saying like
now,
what?
No, wait. This is the second thing right there. Mind you, with the Laura Ingraham clip though, she said, we had our shit that we want dealing with our values, and we handed to our politicians to do our bidding, and they didn't do it. And when we felt like we was losing our country for good, we riled up and did something about it. Now, one time did I hear a question. Now, one time did I hear people sit around in a fucking summit or some stupid shit that we be having and ask questions. Hey, guys, we all been in leadership roles for 50 fucking years. hey guys, hey gals, we're all on a panel now, feeling important with our suits and shit. We got a bunch of kids in the fucking crowd because they know, we know that they're not going to know no better, these college kids. So now we're just going to sit around and ask each other questions. So how do we stop police brutality? So are we going to resist the Trump movement? What things do you think is going to do better than
at the end of the day, we have to come to the realization, and we have to actually put out there that our leaders, wherever they are, whoever we identify as leaders, they all sitting back getting fat. They just collecting checks, living off of the black struggle, just like everyone else is at this point. And so it goes back to the last show where we spoke about, it was a few shows ago, but with Steve Bannon, and he was speaking on, basically, I forget the term, but pretty much everyone in the political Republican Party who didn't agree with Donald Trump's ideals, they pretty much was going to primary them and
right.
bring in acceptable candidates. So now we have to do that in the black community. So the people got to identify the leaders, identify who those leaders are. Those are the clear leaders. These are the people who've been speaking. These are the people who got offices, power, whoever. And then you say, okay, how long have these people been in office? Oh, no, back up. You got to identify the leaders. Then we're going to identify the problems. We're going to put a list of what the black people problems, this is what we want. Then you're going to say, how long those leaders been in office? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And now we have to say, what accomplishments have these motherfuckers made on this list? And if you don't got shit in the last 5 years or 10 years, at least 10 years, your ass is out of there.
That's right.
Nobody can sit comfortable no more. We have to be serious about the leadership, and the leadership pretty much got to go, because if we ain't got if the head fucked up, the body fucked up. So I mean, that's pretty much what we have to do.
If you could at least do that, that's without an economy. That's just straight using paper voting ballots. That's just numbers game. You know what I'm saying? That's no. You ain't got to donate to no party, nothing. That's no economy. That's the shit. Show your power. Sit there, go look through your shit. Look, Google your alderman, Google your councilman, Google your the senator, the mayor, your fucking governors, and all. Google everybody. Google every motherfucking black person that's on the fucking share of your community. And when it's time for voting, look how many years they've been there. And if they've been there more than 10 years, and there's no change in your neighborhood, I don't care what their name is. Only if they're doing something in your community. Which 9 out of 10 they ain't. We only know supplemental shit. They put a park somewhere or a slide. Fuck out of here. So really, everybody over 10 years, black on the Democratic side in the Congressional Black Caucus or anywhere, if your black ass been in office for more than 10 years and my community still fucked up, everybody got to go. And then y'all got to replace them with fresh black blood. That got to be the mission. That got to be the model. The reason why that's not going to be the mission and the model, Smoke, is because motherfuckers look at them not as politicians but as leaders. That's our fucking problem.
That's real.
That's our problem. We look at them as leaders, and they're not leaders. They're fucking politicians. They can be voted in and voted out. They're not leaders.
Gotta agree with that. We have to start somewhere, man, because when you just diagnosing what the clip that you just played from Laura Ingraham, it's pretty much her saying, hey, we pointed out this list of things that we wanted previously. This is what we was paying our fucking politicians to do. And a group of us said, hey, we didn't get this shit on this list. So who didn't give us this shit on this list? Okay, y'all, we got issues with y'all. You see what I'm saying? And that's what she's saying that Trump did. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much. Oh, okay. Now, you know, he pointed that out. I said it incorrectly, but he's pointing that out. This is the list. Now I'm gonna feed that to the people. Oh, you remember those jobs? Well, we didn't. You didn't want to vote for that, right? So why have leadership that ain't fulfilling your ideals? He pumped that to the masses, to everyone he went out and touched, and he was hitting the campaign trail way before Hillary did. Hillary didn't come out for 200 plus days or something like that. So, yeah, it's basically, you know, that shows that, you know, you got to understand what it is that we want, and then we got to identify the ways to go get it. And the number one way is for the people that's in leadership. We have to tap those people to, you know, fulfill what we want. And as long as they standing still, and we know our people are compromised, we don't have bunches of stories of us compromising to be comfortable. So you know the politicians is doing that. So we got to make the right people uncomfortable. I understand the NFL protest, but let's make let's hold our people accountable. Let's make them, you know, they our color, they our shit.
Everybody got to be held accountable. All of them, because it's our right. Like I said, when we sit there now and we start, that's like I said, man, that's why it's hard to sit there and keep screaming at that ideology of white supremacy and racism. It's hard for me to scream white supremacy and racism in these times, outside of police killing black people. It's hard for me to say racism and white supremacy for everything else, because everything else is just the result of dumbass decisions that we made in the past. That's it. Police killing us and arresting us and shit like that, I mean, that's slave catchers. That's what the fuck the slave catcher always did. You can't refine that. You can't refine that. Everything else they refined and made it comfortable for us to be lazy and to do nothing. And that's the sad reality, you know what I'm saying? So this is what I'm going to do right now. I want to get ready to get into this book. Before I get into the book, I want to read this story about this black man. This black man named is Casper Holstein. He was born 1876 and he died 1944. Casper Holstein was a prominent New York philanthropist and mobster involved in the Harlem's numbers racket during Prohibition. He, along with several other rivals, mostly notable Stephanie Sinclair, who were responsible for resurrecting illegal gambling in Harlem after several years of inactivity following the conviction of Peter H. Matthews in 1915. Another black man, Peter H. Matthews, in 1915. The product of a biracial union, Holstein was born in St. Croix, Danish West Indies, in 1894. He moved with his mother to New York, spent most of his teenage years attending high school in Brooklyn. After graduating from high school, he enlisted in the United States Navy shortly before the Spanish-American War. After the war, he held several odd jobs among being positions as a porter and a doorman in Manhattan. Eventually, he worked his way up to become head messenger for a Wall Street brokerage firm. While working on Wall Street, Holstein became familiar with the stock market. He also began studying the number system, an illegal lottery often played by impoverished New York City residents. Holstein eventually developed his own lottery called Bolito, and by 1920, the following year, they're going to be the Tulsa riots in 1921. He became known in New York underworld as the Bolito King. By the mid-1920s, Holstein reputedly earned more than $2 million from his lottery. With the wealth, he lived lavishly, owned 2 Harlem apartment buildings, a Long Island home, a fleet of expensive cars, and several thousand acres of Virginia farmland. This is the mid-1920s for all the black people who scared to look back in their past. Holstein established a Harlem tradition. Let me read this again. Holstein established a Harlem tradition of using some of his illicit earnings to support worthy causes and thus win, quote-unquote, goodwill within the African-American community. Now niggas give out turkeys, right? But let's see when the Harlem tradition was strong, what went on. He donated some of his earnings to humanitarian enterprises. He financed dormitories at Southern black colleges and supplemented the incomes of a number of Harlem resident artists and supported impoverished Harlem children. His lottery profits also helped establish a Baptist school in Liberia, create a museum in New York, and provide hurricane relief for his native homeland. And guess where his native homeland is, Smoke, where he provided hurricane relief?
St. Croix.
The Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the St. Croix? They just say St. Croix. He was born in St. Croix, Dutch Virgin Islands, but he said his homeland of Virgin Islands. By the end of, which I thought was funny because of the whole hurricane relief shit now with Virgin Islands.
Yeah, of course.
By the end of the 1920s, Holstein had become the most significant of Harlem's numerous power brokers. He controlled a massive number-running operation, as well as nightclubs and several other legitimate business enterprises. His income was rumored to be as high as $12,000 a day at his peak. He was, according to the New York Times, Harlem's favorite hero because of his wealth, his sporting proclivities, and his philanthropies among the people of his race. So let me read that again. He was, according to New York Times, Harlem's favorite hero because of his wealth. This is for all the wealthy black people. His sporting proclivities and his philanthropies among the people of his race. In 1928, Holstein was taken hostage by 5 white men who demanded a ransom of $50,000. 3 days later, he was released. After his release, he insisted that no ransom was paid, which it wasn't. No one was arrested, which they wasn't. And the incident was never explained, which it was. However, rumors around Holstein abduction was orchestrated by New York mobster Dutch Schultz, who eventually took control of Harlem's gambling scene. That's why he insisted that no ransom was paid. You get it? Because Dutch Schultz, who eventually took control of Harlem's gambling scene. Holstein controlled the gambling scene. They kidnapped him. The kidnapping was for the meeting with Dutch Schultz.
Yes.
That's all that was. Now he gets control of the Harlem gambling scene. Then it goes, after serving a year in prison for illegal gambling, because Dutch Schultz had control over the politicians, Holstein, quote-unquote, retired from the members' racket and spent his remainder of his life supporting various charities. Holstein died in Harlem, April 5th, 1944. So,
basically, got that nigga locked up. He took over the shit.
No, but keep it. Dutch Schultz, like, all right, so let's say at the height, it's $12,000 a day was the peak of what Holstein was making, right? You get a ballpark figure of that amount. Dutch Schultz, when he took over the Harlem gambling scene, he took over that shit, and he was paying, and he made them niggas get a salary of $200 a day. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, major pay cut.
Took all that shit. Took control of that shit. So when you see black people out here in history and they don't have this shit, that's our biggest enemy. That's what racism, white supremacy is. You do what I'm like with that example in that story, you understand what I mean now when I'm saying it ain't racism and white supremacy we're dealing with. We're dealing with the outcome of dumb decision making. That's what we're dealing with. Right. That shit I just read, that's what racism, white supremacy is. You see what I'm saying? Motherfuckers kidnap you and tell you, we want your whole operation. Motherfuckers cut you down from $12,000 a day to $200 a day. You go from being a fucking rich man, taking care of your whole family, to struggling. You see what I'm saying? Barely making it and shit. And then through history, they try to make it like, well, that's just how they work. No. That's what racism, white supremacy is. Racism, white supremacy isn't interracial fucking relationships and all kind of shit like that. That's not racism, white supremacy. If you see people get itched out, no. Racism, white supremacy is deep. Some deep shit. Really trying to dismantle what you have. Right now, we don't have shit to be dismantled. So we're dealing with the outcome of people picking on the weak people. The strong picking on the weak, the predator picking on the prey. So that's what we complain about. Instead of countering these attacks to make ourselves stronger so we can protect ourselves, no, we cry and continuously be weak. Let me get into this chapter 2. So it's in Black America. Let's call the number 646-716-4664 in Black America Radio. Where do we go from here? Chaos or Community, Chapter 2. So we're going to break this down now. All right. And all of this is Martin Luther King's writing. Title, Black Power. James Meredith has been shot. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday in June 1966, and I was presiding over the regular staff meeting of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in our Atlanta headquarters when we heard that Meredith had been shot in the back only a day after he had begun his freedom march through Mississippi. There was a momentary hush of anger and dismay throughout the room. Our horror was compounded by the fact that the early reports announced that Meredith was dead. Soon the silence was broken, and from every corner of the room came expressions of outrage. The business of the meeting was forgotten to the shock of the latest evidence that a Negro's life is still worthless in many parts of his own country. When order was finally restored, our executive staff immediately agreed that the march must continue. After all, we reasoned, Meredith had begun his lonely journey as a pilgrimage against fear. Wouldn't failure to continue only intensify the fear of the oppressed and deprived Negroes of Mississippi? Would this not be a setback for the whole civil rights movement and a blow to nonviolent discipline? After several calls between Atlanta and Mississippi, we learned that the earlier reports of Meredith's death were false and that we would recover. This news brought relief, but it did not alter our feelings that the civil rights movement had a moral obligation to continue along the path that Meredith had begun. The next morning, I was off to Memphis along with several members of my staff. Floyd McKissick, National Director of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality, flew in from New York and joined us on the flight from Atlanta to Memphis. After landing, we went directly to the municipal hospital to visit Meredith. We were happy to find him resting well. After expressing our sympathy and gratitude for his courageous witness, Floyd and I shared our conviction with him and the march. That the march should continue in order to demonstrate to the nation and the world that Negroes would never again be intimidated by the terror of extremist white violence. Realizing that Meredith was often a loner and that he probably wanted to continue the march without a large group, he felt that it would take a great deal of persuasion to convince him that the issue involved the whole civil rights movement. Fortunately, he soon saw this and agreed that we should continue without him. We spent some time discussing the character and logistics of the march and agreed that we would consult with him daily on every decision. As we prepared to leave, the nurse came to the door and said, "Mr. Meredith, there is a Mr. Carmichael in the lobby who would like to see you and Dr. King. Should I give him permission to come in?" Meredith consented. Stokely Carmichael entered with his associate, Cleveland Sellers, and immediately reached out for Meredith's hand. He expressed his concern and admiration and brought messages of sympathy from his colleagues, in the Student Nonviolent Coordination Committee. After a brief conversation, we all agreed that James should get some rest and that we should not burden him with any additional talk. We left the room assuring him that we would conduct the march in his spirit and would seek as never before to expose the ugly racism that pervaded Mississippi and to arouse a new sense of dignity and manhood in every Negro who inhibited that bastion of man's inhumanity to a man. In a brief conference, Floyd, Stokely, and I agreed that the march would be jointly sponsored by CORE, SNCC, and the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Since that's a Southern Christian Leadership Conference, I wonder if that's a Republican group. To say conference, you know what I'm saying? With the understanding that all the other civil rights organizations would be invited to join. It was also agreed that we would issue a national call for support and participation. 1 hour later, after making staff assignment and setting up headquarters at the Reverend James Lawson Church in Memphis, a group of us packed into 4 automobiles and made our way to that desolate spot on Highway 51 where James Meredith had been shot the day before. So began the second stage of the Meredith, Mississippi Freedom March. As we walked down the meandering highway in the sweltering heat, there was much talk and many questions were raised. I'm not for that nonviolent stuff anymore, shouted one of the younger activists. If one of those damn white people, white Mississippi crackers touch me, I'm going to knock the hell out of them, shouted another. Later on, a discussion of the composition of the march came up. This should be an all-black march, said one marcher. We don't need any more white phonies and liberals invading our movement. This is our march. Once during the afternoon, we stopped to sing, "We Shall Overcome." The voices rang out with all the traditional fever, the glad thunder, the gentle strength that had always characterized the singing of that noble song. But when we came to the stanza which speaks of black and white together, the voice of a few of the marchers was muted. I asked them later why they refused to sing that verse. The retort was, "This is a new day. We don't sing those words anymore. In fact, the whole song should be discarded. Not we shall overcome, but we shall overrun." As I listened to all those comments, the words fell on my ears like strange music from a foreign land. My hearing was not attuned to the sound of such bitterness. I guess I should not have been surprised. I should have known that in an atmosphere where false promise are daily realities, where deferred dreams are nightly facts, where acts of unpunished violence towards Negroes are a way of life, nonviolence would eventually be seriously questioned. I should have been reminded that disappointment produces despair, and despair produces bitterness, and that the one thing certain about bitterness is its blindness. Bitterness has not the capacity to make the distinction between some and all. When some members of the dominant group particularly those in power, are racist in attitude and practice, bitterness accused the whole group. At the end of the march, the first day, we all went back to Memphis and spent the night in a Negro motel, since we had not yet secured a tent and would serve as shelter. Since we had not yet secured the tent that would serve as shelter each of the following nights on our journey. The discussion continued at the motel. I decided that I would plead patiently with my brothers to remain true to the time-honored principles of our movement. I began with a plea for nonviolence. This immediately arose some of our friends from the Deacons for Defense who contended that self-defense was essential and that therefore nonviolence should not be a prerequisite for participation in the march. They were joined in the view by some of the activists from CORE and SNCC. I tried to make it clear that besides opposing violence on principle, I could imagine nothing more impractical and disastrous than for any of us, through misguided judgment, to participate in violent confrontation in Mississippi. We had neither the resources nor the techniques to win. Furthermore, I asserted many Mississippi whites from the government on down would enjoy nothing more than for us to turn to violence in order to use this as an excuse to wipe out scores of Negroes in and out of the march. Finally, I contended that the debate over the question of self-defense was unnecessary, since few people suggested that Negroes should not defend themselves as individuals when attacked. The question was not whether one should use his gun when his home was attacked, but whether it was tactical wise to use a gun while participating in organized demonstrations. If they lowered the banner of nonviolence, I said, Mississippi injustice would not be exposed and the moral issue would be obscured. Next, the question of the participation of whites was raised. Stokely Carmichael contended that the inclusion of whites in the march should be de-emphasized, and that the dominant appeal should be made for black participation. Others in the room agreed. As I listened to Stokely, I thought about the years that we had worked together in communities all across the South, and how joyously we had then became welcome and accepted our white allies in the movement. What accounted for the reversal in Stokely's philosophy? Question mark. And I'm going to pause right there. Now, what I read right there, Smoke, is this is Martin Luther King's thoughts, right? This is his experience. This is his words. When I read that, I read a man that's torn. You know what I'm saying? That's what I always say. When the question about Martin and Malcolm is put up, we should look at it more so as we should have the actions of Martin and the mind frame of Malcolm.
Right.
Because the mind frame of Martin, he questioned it. He's like, why is he talking like that? But what about the white allies? What about the white people that died for our rights? What, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we understand that he's brainwashed. He's a blind, deaf, and dumb. The youth coming up under him, they like, yo, enough is enough. We sick of this shit. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, bro.
Nah, I mean,
we dealing with that now.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of it like that, like in the sense of you know, him being torn, and the example you give of like you know, the mind frame of Malcolm and the actions of Martin, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, that overall idea is just bringing shit together. Like, when you think of that, it's just we have everything out there that we need. It's just like putting it together. So, I mean, in the case of Martin, we just got to take, you know, what he did well. You know what I'm saying? And focus in on that. That's the only thing I can really say about that.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because the energy is the same energy as now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got us that. You know what I'm saying? We sick of the bullshit. We don't want to hear the fucking rockabye me to sleep liberal bullshit no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, we don't want to do all of that extra shit, yo. We want what the fuck I keep saying that we fighting for. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to still fighting for that. Now watch this. I surmise that much of the change had its psychological roots in the experience of SNCC in Mississippi during the summer of 1964, when a large number of northern white students had come down to help in that racially torn state. When the SNCC workers saw was the most articulate, powerful, and self-assured young white people coming to work with the poorest of the Negro people, and simply overwhelmed them. That summer, Stokely and others in SNCC had probably unconsciously concluded that this was no good for Negroes, for it simply increased their sense of their own inadequacy. Of course, the answer to this dilemma was not to give up, not to conclude that blacks must work with blacks in order for Negroes to gain the sense of their own meaning. Of course, the answer to this dilemma was not to give up, not to conclude that black must. See what I'm saying? It's like this is Martin Luther King's mind frame, right here. This is why it's funny when people be like, "Oh, but he got a picture with the Rothschild." This is his mind frame. The average mind frame of a Christian, hard-bodied Christian, because he's a Christian preacher. Of 1964, you know he got a white Jesus hanging up. He said, the white people from the North coming down reminded Negroes of their own inadequacy. He said, of course, the answer to this dilemma was not to give up, right? Not to conclude that blacks must work with blacks in order for Negroes to gain a sense of their own meaning. The answer was only to be found in persistent trying, perpetual experimentation, preserving togetherness. So mentally, you know what I'm saying? He off mentally. But see, the thing about people that's off versus the people that's on, the people that's on stuck into the identity trap. With the people that's off, they don't give a fuck that they don't have an identity. They idolize white people. So now they just have action while we're still stuck on identity. That's why I say take the movement of Martin, action, and keep the mind frame of Malcolm, which is really Marcus Garvey, with the do for self, self-reliance, build an economy. So then it goes, like life, racial understanding is not something that we find, but something that we must create. What we find when we enter these mortal planes is existence, but existence is the raw material out of which all life must be created. A productive and happy life is not something that you find. It is something that you make. And so the abilities of Negroes and whites to work together to understand each other will not be found ready-made. It must be created by the fact of contact. Along these lines, I implore everyone in the room to see the morality of making the march completely interracial. Consciousness must be enlisted in our movement. I said not merely racial groups. I reminded them of the dedicated whites who had suffered, bled, and died in the cause of racial justice, and suggested that to reject white participation now would be a shameful repudiation of all for which they had sacrificed. This is how deep he is into the whiteness, right?
Yeah.
Finally, I say that the formidable foes we now see demand more unity than ever before. This all that hugging Nazi shit. Finally, I said that the formidable foe we now face demand more unity than ever before, and that I would stretch every point to maintain this unity, but that I could not in good conscience agree to continue my personal involvement in that of SCLC in the march if it were not publicly affirmed that it was based on nonviolence and the participation of both black and white. After a few more minutes of discussion, Floyd and Stokely agreed, and that we could unite around these principles as far as the march was concerned. The next morning, we had a joint press conference affirming that the march was nonviolent and that whites were welcome. As the days progressed, debates and discussions continued, but they were usually pushed to the background by the onrush of enthusiasm engaged by large crowds that turned out to greet us in every town. We had been marching for about 10 days when we passed through Grenada on the way to Greenwood. Stokely did not conceal his growing eagerness to reach Greenwood. This was SNCC territory in the sense that the organization had worked courageously there during the turbulent summer of 1964. As we approached the city, large crowds of old friends and new turned out to welcome us. As a huge mass meeting that night, which was held in the city park, Stokely mounted the platform, and after arousing the audience with a powerful attack on Mississippi justice, he proclaimed, "What we need is black power." Willie Ricks, the fiery orator of SNCC, leaped to the platform and shouted, "What do you want?" The crowd roared, "Black power." Again and again, Ricks cried, "What do you want?" And the response, "Black power," grew louder and louder until it had reached a fever pitch. So Greenwood turned out to be the area for the birth of the Black Power slogan in the Civil Rights Movement. The phrase had been used long before by Richard Wright and others, but never until that night had it been used as a slogan in the Civil Rights Movement for people who had been crushed so long by white power and who had been taught that black was degrading. It had a real appeal. Immediately, however, I had reservation about its use. Immediately, I had reservation about its use. I had the deep feeling that it was an unfortunate choice of words for a slogan. Moreover, I saw it bring in more division within the ranks of the marchers. For a day or two, there was fiery competition between those who were wedding to the Black Power slogan and those wedding to Freedom Now speakers. To Freedom Now. Speakers on each side sought desperately to get the crowd to chant their slogan the loudest. Sensing this widening split in our ranks, I asked Stokely and Floyd to join me in a frank discussion of the problem. We met the next morning along with members of each of our staff in a small Catholic parish house in Yazoo City. For 5 long hours, I pleaded with the group to abandon the Black Power slogan. It was but contention that a leader has to be concerned about the problem of semantics. Each word, I said, has a denotative meaning. It's explicit and recognized sense, and a connotative meaning is suggestive sense. While the concept of legitimate black power might be denotatively sound, the slogan Black Power carried the wrong condemnation. I mentioned the implication of violence that the press had already attached to the phrase. I mentioned the implications of violence that the press had already attached to the phrase, and I went on to say that some of the rash statements on the part of a few marchers only reinforced this impression. Stokely replied by saying that the question of violence versus nonviolence was irrelevant. The real question was the need for black people to consolidate their political and economic resources to achieve power. Power, he said, is the only thing respected in this world, and we must get it at any cost. Then he looked me squarely in the eye and said, "Martin, you know as well as I do that particularly every other ethnic group in America done just this. The Jews, the Irish, the Italians did it. Why can't we?" "That is just the point," I answered. "No one has ever heard the Jews publicly chant a slogan of Jewish power, but they have power. Through group unity, determination, and creative endeavor. They have gained it. The same thing is true of the Irish and Italian. Neither group has used the slogan of Irish and Italian power, but they have worked hard to achieve it. This is exactly what we must do, I said. We must use every constructive means to amass economic and political power. This is the kind of legitimate power we need. We must work to build racial pride and refute the notion that black is evil and ugly. But this must come through a program, not merely through a slogan. Stokely and Floyd insisted that the slogan itself was important. How can you arouse people to unite around a program without a slogan, as a rallying cry? Didn't the labor movement have a slogan? Haven't we had slogans all along the freedom movement? What we need is a new slogan with black in it. I conceded the fact that we must have slogans, but why have one that would confuse our allies? Isolate the Negro community and give many prejudiced whites who might otherwise be ashamed of their anti-Negro feelings a ready excuse for self-justification. Why not use slogans black consciousness or black equality? I suggested. These phrases would be less vulnerable and would more accurately describe what we're about. So what do you guys say about that song? That song, you
Tone it down. Tone it down, bro.
Black power. Black people love the world. There's no ring to that. We can't chant that one. Black us, you know.
Yeah, it's funny to hear that, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's funny.
But he also said too, though, that we need an institution to teach black love and to teach black, black people to love themselves and not to think that they're evil and wicked. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So even for him to say that lets you, and then you hear his rhetoric, that lets you know his mind frame. He's backwards, but he's not backwards because he's a sellout. He's backwards because that's the time he lives in. But Stokely Carmichael, they're the youth. So they coming up under it, and they like, yo, this is some bullshit. So where they looking like, we can't do it that way. We should do it this way. And it's like, man, I'm sick of that shit. So it's two different energies because it's two different ways of seeing the world. But you can't even call Martin a sellout because that's the mind frame of the time. Like that's like me in the early 90s. I grew up with an understanding of a black Messiah. I'll say that. You know what I'm saying? So I remember being in the South in like 94, talking to black people, and they believed in white Jesuses and shit and white people and asking me did I want to be white when I was a kid and all kind of shit like that. And because I grew up in a pro-black house, I used to look at them and be like, yo, Jesus is black. The characters in the Bible is black. Like all this shit niggas talk about now, that's what I was saying when I was like 13 and 14 years old. You know what I'm saying? I used to be like, yo, have to school, you know what I'm saying, talk to the people and stuff like that when I was a kid. But see, it was second nature to me. So when I would hear black people say that, it used to throw me off. I used to be like, whoa, a black person that believes in a white God? Like, that used to throw me off. Like, what the fuck is that about?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but they're not sellouts. They learning what their mama taught them. So it's up for them now to grow up and question what their mama taught them, and then they get older and they like, yo, mama, I don't believe in no white Jesus. And like, oh, Lord, my baby, he done lost his mind and all that shit like that because, yeah, she's caught up in another era. She caught up in that spell. So we got to, he ain't no sellout. It's just that everybody, people, it's some people that would be like, yo, well, we'll say more radical than others, right? Now watch this. The word black and power together give the impression that we are talking about black domination rather than black equality. Stokely responded that neither would have the ready appeal and persuasive force of black power. Throughout the lengthy discussion, Stokely and Floyd remained adamant, and Stokely concluded by saying with candor, Martin, I deliberately decided to raise this issue on the march in order to give it a national forum and force you to take a stand for black power. I laughed. I have been used before, I said to Stokely. One more time won't hurt. So even that's Stokely, like, yo, this dude really believes in these white people. You know what? I'm going to pull his card right here. I'm going to pull his card. And you know what I'm saying? And that's all that shit was. I'm going to pull his card and we're going to see what it is. So he says.
Yeah, make him make a choice.
He said, yeah, we got to make a choice right here on the stand. Because I told you that there's a clip of him on top of a boat. I mean, a buck. And Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King. And Stokely Carmichael, he like, black power and all that stuff like that. You see Martin Luther King like, man, and he rubbed his hand over his head like, I'm not sorry.
I wish it was your wallet.
All right, so go like this. I laughed. I have been used before, I said to Stokely. One more time won't hurt. The meeting ended with the SCLC staff members still agreeing with me that the slogan was unfortunate and would only divert attention from the evils of Mississippi, while most core and SNCC staff members joined Stokely and Floyd in insisting that it should be projected nationally. In a final attempt to maintain unity, I suggested that we compromise by not chanting either Black Power or Freedom Now. For the rest of the march, by not chanting either Black Power or Freedom Now for the rest of the march. In this way, neither of the people nor the press would be confused by the apparent conflict, and staff members would not appear to be loggerheads. They all agreed with this compromise. But while the chant died out, the press kept the debate going. News stories now centered not on the injustices of Mississippi, but on the apparent ideological differences in the civil rights movement. Smoke, sound familiar? Take a knee, right? The press kept the debate going. News stories now centered not on the injustices of Mississippi, but on the apparent ideological differences in the civil rights movement. Every revolutionary movement has its peak of united activities and its valley of debate and internal confusion. This debate might well have been little more than a healthy internal difference of opinion, but the press loved the sensational, and it could not allow the issue to remain within the private domain of the movement. In every drama, there has to be an antagonist and a protagonist. And if the antagonist is not there, the press will find and build one. So that don't sound like right now.
It is.
Why
right
1964 sound like 2017? You see what I'm saying, Smoke? Why 1967 sound like 2017? Why 1964 sound like, why these black people talking like us? Why the media playing the same trick then that they playing now? And we think we progressing? I just read a story, Smoke, about a brother in the 1800s and in the early in the 1920s. Let's say the 1920s. That's when he was popping. In the 1920s, where he made millions. Millions. And I'm going to keep dropping stories like that and dropping these dates so we can go back to and look at our past and not way back in no damn ancient Egypt, but a century and 2 centuries ago, 3 centuries ago. Just to see what the fuck was we doing. We out here doing what we got to do. But they dealt with real racism and real white supremacy. Now we marching around with signs saying, I am a man in 1960. But in the 1920s, we have millions? Something ain't adding up. So.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to keep doing them stories, too, just so we can keep hearing these stories and know the names of these black people, these events and things like that. I'm going to send you the link, though. But it's the other part.
That's what's up. No, I was just saying.
Well, you know what? Now, it's
I had the
Casper. Yeah, it's a two-part joint in here, right? For the I ain't gonna be able to read the whole chapter. So this is just a two-part, part 2. So I'm gonna stop right here at 2, and we'll pick up on 2 again for another day. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, and I'm gonna keep making this point. Why am I reading about events in the 60s that's happening now? And we think we're moving forward. We following the same pattern, Smoke, looking for white allies again, right? Right?
Yeah.
We're looking for white allies. We tried that. We did that. We got frustrated with that. We know, everybody pick up the Bible, right? I'm gonna start reading these books like they're the Bible, yo. When I start reading them on here, I'm going to start reading them like they the Bible because, see, y'all pick up a Bible and y'all get caught up in them stories. When y'all need to be picking up the books that these brothers and these sisters in the struggle wrote about their experience, whether it's during slavery time, whether it's civil rights time, whether it's the crack era, whether it's anything, you got to pick them up. You got to pick them up because you have to remember what was the games that was played before. Could they play it over and over again? Why am I reading just like this part of the chapter, Smoke, that literally, if I could have read that shit and then at the end said, Black Lives Matter, and people would have thought that's a speech I wrote. Or something, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's 1960 something. That's 1960 something. That's not right. Come on, that's not right. We walking around over here.
50 years, half a century.
You know, it's crazy. That's why I sit over here and I just be like, do you not know that we is in a gerbil wheel, hamster wheel? We stuck in, this is what happened, just like Martin Luther King said in this book. Once that first phase happened, they ready for that second phase, and white people stopped them right there at that second phase. And we've been stuck right there at that first phase for all these decades. And we think shit's changing because we got a flat screen now, and now we can have interracial relationships, and we can live where we want to live, and all kind of other shit like that. that shit is different. So then once things start to fall apart, and then it's like you start to see racial tension or whatever, then we start to say, oh, we're going back to the 1960s. And I'm like, no. We're still here. We never left. We're not going back.
Yeah.
We're going back.
The sad part is just the chaos, man. That's what stands out the most to me is just like how all of us, like, we all have this, like, if you just look on the outside, like, you take a step back and like, yo, man, we all standing up, boy. You know what I mean? We trying to take Trump out, man. And then you start dissecting it or just going on a micro level. You start hearing different pockets of groups that have a different idea of what we doing, how we should do it. Some groups are arguing against each other, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's ironic, well, not really ironic, but you see that the book that you read is called Chaos of Community. And it directly ties in 50 years later to what's happening right now. It's still chaos. And so, like, that's the part that, you know, stands out the most for me, because it's like it goes back to the points earlier of ineffective black leadership. 50 years have passed, and some of these people that are from that era are still around, and, you know, still have voices, and, you know, nothing has changed. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, the children of that civil rights era, they the leaders. And it's like, you know, what are we doing? So we definitely have to take a look at that and want to change it.
Yeah, see, the funny thing about it to me is that not only we're not moving forward, not only are we losing ground, we don't even realize it. Our so-called leadership is getting paid the fuck off. Like I said, we don't have leadership. We have no leadership. Like I always say, we have no leadership. But the people that we perceive as leaders, they paid and brought. You can tell they paid and brought because they're called leaders. They're not our leaders. They're not our leaders. They're fucking politicians. We're supposed to vote their asses out if they're not doing our bidding. But we're not taught that. We're just taught, go to the polls and vote. Go to the polls and vote. Y'all ain't going to vote out Maxine Waters. Why would y'all vote out Maxine Waters? Y'all ain't going to vote out none of these people. Why? Y'all not going to replace them with nobody. Why? Because y'all don't know the game. And then y'all turn these people into y'all leaders. And then y'all idolize them. And you're just going to let them sit there and just milk you and cry while they and their family live great. And then they teach their kids to hustle. And they come down and, if you like my mama, you'll love me. Vote for me. And we'll never have nobody that represents us. You got to stop it. It's a backwards game. It's a backwards game. Just like I said, I was glad W.E.B. Du Bois. He done played the voting game up, down, left, right, flip, flop, all that. After a while, he said, yo, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. But we got to understand how to play the game. If you want to know how to play the game, you got to listen to the people who created the fucking game. Straight up. When I'm listening to these white conferences, just like I said, I don't hear them talking about what questions of what should they do. No, I hear people that's saying what they're going to do. That's what I hear. We're sitting around trying to link with other groups, and we're fighting for racial equality. I want somebody to give me a definition of that. how the hell are you going to be equal to somebody if you don't got an economy? See, but racial equality, we look at it as an individual gain. So we start to count how many white people we got in our pocket. You know what I'm saying? I know this many white people. I can know this many white people. And it's like, that's
strategies got to change.
You know what I'm saying?
We got to have a strategy. We got to have a,
yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, to say everything that we've been saying throughout the show, it comes down to having an agenda, having a strategy, and really executing that shit. Otherwise, it's going to be the results of not having one is chaos, is madness, difference of opinion, infighting, and all that other shit.
And then we get caught. Like I said, the funny thing to me is that we think what we dealing with is some real shit. If we had our shit together, white America caught up in their opioid crisis, man, we're supposed to start buying up and taking over parts of America. Taking advantage of the fact that white America workforce is junkies. We're not in that position. We're in a position to work for cheap for these white companies while they get their white workforce off drugs. And then when their white workforce is off drugs, they're going to try to push them back into the system, Xing your black ass out the system. And then when our unemployment increase, then maybe black people are going to say, you know what? Maybe we should start an economy where we can take care of ourselves and hire ourselves so we can lower our unemployment problem, increase our economic power, which is real economic power when you have an economy, and we could deal with that international trading with the rest of the black world from America around the rest of the black world, because we are the majority. Maybe that's what it's going to take. But no, we run around fighting for racial equality. Why is that your concern? That you want your children to be equal to another person's child, but you don't have what that child people have? Makes no sense to me. But these are weirdo shit that we fight about. That's what we're fighting for. The only thing we should be fighting for is to strengthen our racial group. Because if we're strong, everything else is strong. And we know that. Yeah. If we're weak, everything collapses. People prey on us with an E. So it ain't about complaining about what happens to you. It's about preventing it from how to prevent it from happening. How to prevent it from happening again. How to counter the attack that's happening. Not, I need to go down and I need to march and I need to do this. No. What you need to do is figure out how to counteract. That's how to prevent. These are the words that black people need to have. How to counteract, how to prevent, how to avoid. These words. Stop being reactionary and be pro. Stop being reactionary and be proactive. Take this shit serious. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I say about that, Smoke.
That's real talk, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, shit, we at that point, 11 o'clock. We'll do our the shutdown. As always, visit us on that Facebook, the YouTube, Instagram, and Back America Radio all day. We out here. Check it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. Peace and Black Power. Always remember that you the person that you're looking for, and everything that you're trying to do, you can accomplish it. Hell, Google it, YouTube it, learn it, and then apply. That's how it should work. Any close out smoke?